Hi, we're here today to take a look at a piece of used equipment, in this case a mulch layer, to get an idea of what to look at when you're considering purchasing a used piece of equipment for your farm. On a mulch layer, there are some things that we're going to look at that are typical for a mulch layer and may not be on another machine. There will be things on other machines that won't be on this mulch layer, but as we go through this, try to just get a general idea of the things to think about as you're looking at a piece of used equipment. If we start up here at the front, where it attaches to the machine, this is attached with a 3-point hitch linkage. So if you take a look at the bottom links and the top link, and just see if the pins and the mounts are straight, and if that frame at all is bent. Take a look at the bottom link pins, make sure they're tight, and they're well formed on there and tight on there. And the top link also, the pin attachment is in good shape. As you start looking down the 3-point link arrangement and where it attaches to the main frame, take a look at the connections, because oftentimes that's a place that gets a fair amount of wear and tear on a piece of equipment. On this one, there's some welding that's been done behind the 3-point links where they attach to the frame. And while that's not necessarily bad, it does mean that the machine has had some use and has had to be repaired. As you continue on back, again, looking at the frame, looking at the various components on here and the attachments, just look and see if things look like they're bent or if they're square and if they're in good shape. On this one, there's a bed shaper down here, and the bottom of this is in direct contact with the soil, so that's a place that will wear over time, and any place that's going to wear after a certain amount of time will need to be replaced. So look at it, see if the two sides look fairly even, and see if they look like they're in reasonable shape and will last for a while, or if they're going to need to be replaced soon after you purchase the equipment. Same thing for these chisels on the outside. Do they look like they're in good shape, or are they going to be needing replacement soon after you purchase the equipment? Moving on back a little bit, on here is one important thing, and that is this one has a label on it still that has the manufacturer and the address of the manufacturer, so you'll know where to go when you need parts, or where to go to find your closest dealer for that particular piece of equipment. Sometimes that's missing on a piece of equipment, and it can be difficult to figure out whose equipment it is if you don't have that. One thing that's present on this mulch layer is a drip irrigation kit to allow you to lay drip irrigation while you're laying the mulch. And while that's not something that's going to be on every piece of equipment, obviously, it is an option for this mulch layer. And so just think about whether the piece of equipment you're looking at has all of the pieces on it that you need, or if you're going to have to add pieces to it to make it do the job you want it to do. Moving on back, if you look at the paint, some paint on here is in real good shape. Other places have rust on it. Again, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but you do need to keep in mind whether you want to spend the time painting it, or if you want to find a piece of equipment that has more paint present. Moving on back, we hit some rolling parts where the plastic lies when it's being laid, and any rolling parts, any bearings, roll them, wiggle them, they should move freely. These shouldn't be bent, they should be straight as they roll. Look at them to see if they've been well maintained, if they're oiled or greased. If you move to the back of the machine where the discs are that cover the plastic mulch as it's being laid, there are grease fittings on this, and there's grease present, so it looks as though whoever has this machine has been taking reasonably good care of it and greasing those places. Anytime you have tires on something, you should look at the tires, look at the sidewalls for cracks, see if the tires look like they're in reasonably good shape. On a mulch layer, these tires don't carry a lot of load. They're just used for holding the plastic down as it's being laid. So it's not as critical as on an implement where the tire actually holds the load. So you don't want those tires to be in real bad shape or have cracks in the sidewalls. Check the valve stems to make sure they look like they're in good shape, and will do the job they need to do. On this particular mulch layer, the instructions are right here. something to think about, to know whether or not you're going to know how to use the piece of equipment. Every piece of equipment should have an operator's manual with it, or you should be able to find one through the internet or through a dealer. Another thing to consider is on a mulch layer, many of the adjustments are with screw adjustments, handles and screws, and if things haven't been moved for a long period of time, they may be rusted fast, and it may take some work to free them up again. So for the different adjustments that are on here, make sure that they're adjustable and will do what you need them to do. So those are some of the things to consider when you're looking at a piece of used equipment. Obviously, a mulch layer has these particular things. Other pieces of equipment will have other things to consider as you're looking at them and considering their use for your farm.